Hard about what you want to be. Step 4. Everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.
Welcome to Tales from the Field. We are back and better than ever. My name is Bradley Ball. Thank you so much for joining us on a Tuesday. Last week, we had our Azure Data Community Roundtable, and on Wednesday, we released Microsoft Fabric, VS Code, Notebooks, and Spark, how to be able to set it up and connect to your workspace, edit and upload changes to your notebooks. Then on Monday, our good friend Neeraj Jhaveri brought us Microsoft Fabric decision trees, deciding which service to use. So much to see, you don't want to miss a thing. And how do you do that? Well, if this is your first time finding your way over to Tales from the Field, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Make sure to follow all the videos so you don't miss a thing. Want to interact with the show? It is so easy to be able to do that. Right now, we are streaming on Twitter under Tales TF Field, our Twitter account. Josh Ludeman, Neeraj Jhaveri, SQL Balls, all simul-screening right there. We also are over at LinkedIn under SQL Balls. Of course, we're also streaming out of our hub, the Tales from the Field home, over on YouTube. If you make a comment on any of those streams, one of my amazing co-hosts will see that comment and they will add it to the show. You will be a part of the show. We love to hear from you and be able to comment on or have a conversation back and forth about anything going on in the Azure Data community. And of course, before I go any further, let me introduce these amazing co-hosts. I am joined by Dan Taylor in for Andreas Bedelia, Josh Ludeman, and he's the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. It's your friend of mine, Neeraj Jhaveri. Dan, we got Father's Day weekend coming up. You're in for Andreas. How you doing, buddy? Any good plans?
I am doing good, and yes, I am going to Duran this weekend. They put on a good show because the tickets were, let's say, more than I normally pay for a concert. But yeah, looking forward to it.
You know, I noticed that Sue loves going to concerts, and there's a couple concerts that normally she would have purchased tickets for, or that we would have gone to, that we passed on. We looked at the Beyonce tour that was coming up, and she saw Beyonce back in the day and from good seats, and these, like, it was $400 or $500 per ticket at the nosebleed level. And then Janet Jackson, we were looking at that tour when that was coming around, and similarly priced. I mean, concert tickets have just gotten insane lately.
Yeah,
not really something you can just go out and do and have a lot of fun with lately. So I mean, we got to pick and choose.
I guess they didn't save their money for a rainy day back in the day.
Well, I was going to say I was able to get into Taylor Swift, so I'm just going to shake it off all year long. That's right. That's right. I went there. I saw. Sorry. So back to Father's Day plans. Dan, you're going to see Duran. Neeraj, any plans for Father's Day?
I mean, most probably we'll be going to the city. I mean, I have barbecue where I call up most of my friends in the New York area. They usually a Father's Day, Saturday or Sunday, depending on the weather. We do barbecue party. So this year it's Saturday. Hopefully the weather holds up, and then Sunday with the kids. I mean, kids are off on June 19th, so probably Sunday we might end up going to the city.
Nice. Big plans in the city. Josh, what about you?
It doesn't matter about you.
No, sorry. I was going to say that was for the I'm fired already.
Yes, I completely put up the banner that you're fired. Terrible puns require punitive discipline.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. You do matter. What are your Father's Day plans?
Actually, we don't have any really that we've been talking about. We're looking to move, so the last many weekends have been packing and stuff. So maybe more packing, but Sunday probably squeaking out for at least in the morning for a nice breakfast that I don't have to cook, which is what is great.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, we're going to go to Cafe Tutango for brunch. My standard is, when we're doing Mother's Day, I make my Father's Day reservations so that way I get in before anybody's really claimed them. And then we're going to go to that to start off the day. I've got family over, but when the family departs, part of what I'd like to do in the evening, I'd like to head over to a Disney park, see some fireworks. This is the last weekend I've got with Serenity before she heads off for the summer. So We're going to try and hit maybe a water park this weekend. We've been moving and we've got a lot of cleanup stuff to do. We almost have like 100% of everything out of the house. I'd say we're about 85% done, and there's a massive donation pile. We will be donating a lot of stuff. Sue took some stuff over today to donate, but my hope is we get clear of that and we're able to enjoy the weekend.
Yeah, and Brad, I know you're like me. You're kind of don't like being out in the bright sun, but check out H2O Glow. This is not a spot for Disney, by the way, y'all. But if they're willing to sponsor us, hey. But H2O is going on where you go at nighttime and you get unfettered access to the park, like a smaller groups of people. So it's really fun.
Oh, I will have to look at that. We had talked about that last year, and you had shared that you guys were going to go do that in August. And I was a little late. I didn't have the time to be able to do that, but it looks absolutely amazing and like a lot of fun. I almost forgot. How could I forget? This Thursday, The Flash comes out into theaters. And hopefully, Josh, we will be going to see that on Friday. I only have a small number of tickets, but it's going to be essentially, I think you and your wife and your kiddo, and then me and two of my kiddos.
It's actually not going to be my wife. My wife, it's going to be me and both of my kids, both of my daughters.
Okay.
But yeah, we're in.
So the ball's in the Ludus. We're gonna go and we're gonna see the movie. I'm excited about that. I after all the wonderful things we've heard about it, that's got a lot to live up to expectations. So if it meets expectations, it's still an astronomical hit. And let's face it, DC is due for a good movie. Yeah. So here's hoping. All right. Well, enough of the chatter about what we're going to do this weekend. Let's get over to the roundtable and take a look at the reason we're here. First up, of course, I have Neeraj Jhaveri. And Neeraj, you have announcing Microsoft Fabric capabilities are available for purchase.
So, we've been talking of Fabric. Last week we did end-to-end scenarios. Now the pricing. So there was a good article that I came across. He wrote it down. It's from the Microsoft Fabric team, and he wrote it down how the capacities would work, what is the cost of it, and how you can do it. So F6, which is like around 4 core servers, or F16. I think F16 is what 16 CUs is what usually you should be staying up to it. You can always go up and down depending on what you want to keep it on your usage pattern of it. But this is what I would ideally put ourselves into it. But yeah, I mean, he has given you all the breakdown of in this article how the one lake storage would happen, capabilities by regions and all of them, and also by monitoring the cost and all the stuff. So how you can monitor your cost management and all the stuff in a very nicely manner. Nice written down blog gives you how to set up your Fabric when your 60 days trial ends, which is I think July 1st.
And
that's
Josh,
fantastic.
I'm going to set up F2048 if you don't mind. I just want to.
Just a heads up on the subscription. Dan's goal is to spend $2,000 a second. No, not quite a second. Maybe a second. Anyway, so I'm up next, and I have our good friend Steve Hughes, and he's got a really great blog working with ALS for ALS Awareness Month in 2023. So one of the things that you may not be aware of on Steve. So Steve, first off, grabbed the Data on Wheels name long ago, long before this. And so it is fitting that that's the name that he has. He's been living with ALS for 2 years. It is a progressive disease. We love Steve with all of our hearts. He's an absolutely amazing man, one of the finest I've ever met. And what I love is that they're launching a YouTube channel. He's taking this as a teachable way to be able to help people understand the technology, the ways to be able to use it, and looking at his personal journey. And so you want to go and you want to take a look. It's also going to support the blog posts that they currently have on the Data on Wheels and Data on Rails blogs that he's doing with Christina Hughes, which are just wonderful, wonderful stuff. But you want to make sure that you subscribe to his channel, because this is going to give you a point of view from working with technology and from one of the smartest technologists that I know, and the issues that he faces. And a lot of what we look about when we talk about inclusion and awareness, it's making sure that people have accessible resources. And so one of the great things that Steve is going to do is he's going to talk about what it is like from his point of view. We're going to go on that journey with him. And Steve's just a great guy. I can't say enough good things about him. And I know a lot of other people feel the same way. And a big shout out to the folks over at 3Cloud who have done a good job keeping Steve involved and making sure that he can continue to contribute in the wonderful ways that he always has. All right. Next up. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. No. Go once, going twice. Dan, you are up next. You have hybrid flexibility in Azure SQL Managed Instance by our good friend Ree Merritt.
So first off, I thought who better to bring a blog post. We try and do community people, but the head of the MVP here in the United States, who better to share a blog post from, right? So Ree goes over we've been getting a lot of questions lately about hybrid and the different ways we can use our on-premises with our Azure. And we know that Brad and I love managed instances as well as Fabric. Don't tell Fabric, though, that we love managed instances as well. We don't want them to fight with each other.
Is this a Molnir kind of,
yeah, I'm like, don't tell them. But Ree goes through a bunch of different features from the managed instance link, the distributed transaction coordinator, which was a huge win. I know back in the days with the supermarket chain we worked with, Brad, we couldn't have migrated to managed instance because they use distributed transaction coordinator everywhere, right, to keep the sales intact. And then she goes also through Azure Arc enabled data services and transactional replication. So it's a great read, and I believe it's going to be a series of blog posts that Ree's putting together. So great place to start. Great place to start when it comes to hybrid and managed instance.
Nice.
Excellent. Good stuff. Next up, of course, we've got Mr. Josh Ludeman, and you've got foldable SQL regions.
Yeah, so this is actually a great blog from Jess. And what it goes through is being able to create foldable regions of code in either PowerShell or T-SQL. So if you're not familiar with them, in VS Code and in Azure Data Studio, you can create regions similar to like a markdown header, and put in those regions groups of code in an overall script. The region headers and dividers themselves get ignored when the script is executed. But as far as in like an IDE like VS Code or ADS, it allows you to shrink those areas down. And so where it says like in the exec part there, actually make it all disappear so that you can see, okay, this is the create job section. This is another, a folded region section. This is another folded region. So you can actually take groups of the code, and once you get through a region, close it and minimize, especially when you get into those hundreds of lines of code, PowerShell, and God forbid, even, T-SQL stored procedures, you can really be a little bit more finicky and specific about what you're showing on your screen and using up your real estate for, so to speak.
Yeah, and this one was so popular amongst our team that two of us chose it. So Josh and I chose it, and then we had a fight over who got it. So
y'all see who presented it. I'm just saying.
I see who presented, but also go give Jess some love. Jess talked about having an issue getting out there and getting the blog inspiration going. So just put this out there and go out there, put some comments, give Jess some love, and get Jess the blog more, because great blogger.
Yeah, Jess is fantastic. Absolutely. Everybody should go out, give this a read, take a look at it. And what a great way to be able to keep your code organized. Sorry, Neeraj, go ahead, please.
No, I was like, how did you guys decide who gets to put it in? Was it a coin toss or was it a punching each other?
They Russian vote for it.
Josh is my boss.
Oh,
I did not play that card. I was going to say I just was the first one in the spreadsheet with it. That's all.
There was a lot of that going on this week, I think, when people went. And so we work on this for quite a while, where we look at different blog posts and we go in and we put stuff in. And there was a couple times I saw something that other people had seen, and I went to go put it in the spreadsheet, and I was like, oh man, they've already, I got to find it. So there's a lot of good stuff. What I love is that all of us had to reach down deep, because I think everybody, at least at one point in time, had something that somebody else wanted. So a lot of great content out there. We are spoiled by the riches of it. Okay. So next up, I have Neeraj. Neeraj, you have real-time analytics discovering the best way to get data into a KQL database.
So the good blog by Anshul Sharma, he describes with Trident out there, they have KQL databases inbuilt in there, and he gives you step by step how you can create your KQL databases in there. He also shows you how to get data from other things. I mean, the reason people use KQLs is for log analytics and getting the insights from their monitoring systems and all of them. So he even shows you how to get data from other storage accounts or other cloud providers, and then he shows you how to integrate all of them into a KQL databases, create a pipeline, bring the data into one database, and then also one other thing that he mentions is a whole video showing that the whole thing that is written on the blog, which is really awesome, right? I mean, going through a video is more easier for me rather than reading, because I definitely miss a step here and there. So that definitely helps me out. So nice written blog helping you how to create a KQL database in Trident.
I love it. I love it. That is really, really great stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, sell it all around. All right, so I am up next, and I have a great article by Arun Sapral on Blob Eater, and it's about Azure Chaos Studio. Now, this is specifically with regards to Cosmos Database, which is how he's using it. But Azure Chaos Studio is one that I think we're going to start to hear more and more about on a data side, because one of the things people are often trying to figure out is how can I mimic situations going on where I have issues in Azure, or where I'm seeing these different things. And one of the things I love is he links to the Learn module, some of the documentation we have about this, but also how to be able to fire off these events. And this can give you ideas as far as firing off memory pressure events or IO pressure events or things of that nature. And so he walks a little bit more through the different steps of this, but I love it. This was also via SQL Server Central and still was Steve's blog. So I want to make sure when we tweet this out, we're going to make sure and tweet out via SQL Server Central, one of the oldest sites going online, and it is a great forum. I'll be honest, I don't post in the forums like I used to when I was an active DBA, but I know my blog is federated through there. There's a lot of great blogs that are federated through there. If you are a DBA, if you're working with data across the board, Azure data, on-prem data, whatever data, you should be looking at, and you should have SQL Server Central as one of those main places that you're going to.
Nice.
All right. Speaking of main places that we're going to, up next is Mr. Daniel Taylor. And he's got T-SQL Tuesday, 163 invitation. What is the best piece of career advice you've ever received?
So I wanted to bring this up because, and I'm going to get Gethin, correct me, please chime in, Gethin, on Twitter or on LinkedIn if I got your name wrong. But Gethin is putting an invite out there for your best career advice you've ever received. And the reason why this resonated with me is we here from Tales from the Field have done a couple of SQL Saturdays recently. And this is one of the number one questions we get. What would you recommend? What advice would you give me starting out? We're finding a ton of people breaking into this field. And I'm looking forward to following up with this. I'm going to be guesting for the next couple of weeks on the show. So I'm going to follow up with some of the responses from this, but I wanted to put this out there so folks get out there and give your best career advice you've ever received. And you know, the best two pieces of advice: tools are only as good as the fools that use them. And then also, don't let people tell you you can't do it. There's going to be people that bring you down. But I'm looking forward to seeing what other folks in the industry here can provide folks, because they need it. The folks coming into this field, they need some advice and they need some guidance because they're having a tough time breaking in, to be very honest.
No, I agree. You know, as a matter of fact, I've got an active blog running and I post our weekly updates there. I think I'm going to do my best to actually make sure I get a blog out for this Tuesday, because this should be a pretty easy one to write up. But there's a couple different pieces that I've gotten over time that have been increasingly helpful in various different areas. And then, as we've talked about it, soft skills and books. I mean, going out there and getting involved. People often ask, how do I get involved in the SQL data community? Well, you just go out there. Literally, the community is built to grow the next generation of people who are going to be active within the community. So, I mean, literally it's part of the mission and the mandate of the community. Go to user groups. And if you are a first time presenter, let people know you're a first time presenter. They won't react to you like, oh, this person, right? They will sit there and they will work with you. They will give you feedback. They will try and help you. I looked at the first presentation I ever gave, which was on video, like back in February, I want to say 2011. And oh my God, that was awful. I mean, it's awful compared to where I've grown, but now I've been doing this for over 12 years. So it's a muscle and you grow things. So make sure that you get out there, get involved. At T-SQL Tuesday, we've said it once, I'll say it again. It is a great way to get involved as a part of the community. If you're going, how do I get out there and become a blogger? Well, all the bloggers who are involved in T-SQL Tuesday will be advertising that, and they will lift everybody else up. And so you may get people visiting your blog that have never seen it before. So there's so many wonderful ways to get involved in the community. Make sure and do it. Dan, I love that you brought that, and try and hold me accountable to that. I owe them a blog Tuesday morning. If you want to add that into your calendar, I will take that, because I need to write something up that we should participate in that.
Let's talk about it offline, but maybe all of us could give a little bit and you could post it up on your blog.
Oh, I like that. I like that. That'd be a great idea. All right. Speaking of the glue that holds us all together, next up we have Mr. Josh Ludeman. Azure announcing general availability of Azure SQL bindings for Azure Functions.
Really? We're gonna go with that? Okay. No,
I mean, if you want, I can go back to giving you, rock quips, and you can try and fire me. But
I was like, wow, that's a hell of a shift from one end of the spectrum to the other. So yeah, no, I'm fine either way. I just kind of wanted to know where I stood. I was, I got a little off balance.
You are the glue.
You know me, I love you, but when you get angry, I just have to push back. It's, I recognize. So we had talked about this at one point in time. I'm going to derail this for a second. When our buddy Gareth was around, Gareth was older than me, and I never had an older brother. And so I am the older brother. So I got to needle Gareth in a way that I miss and I covet, because he was the younger brother. And there was one day that Ludeman was doing something and he was just annoying the shit out of me. And I said to him, I stopped and I looked and I went, oh my God, I'm the older brother now. And he goes, yep. And I was like, so I get it, but as the older brother, I have to push back. I got to push back when you give me attitude, but you're a heart. I love you, man. So anyway, let's get on with what Drew.
Now that we fully derailed, let's get back here. So yeah, this is a great blog by Drew. He's on the Azure SQL tools team with a couple of our friends, Aaron Stellato and Jess Schultz. But this blog is about the addition of the bindings, SQL bindings for Azure Functions. So what bindings do with Azure Functions is allow you to easily basically get data in and out of Azure SQL using Azure Functions. And actually even further down, the one that kind of excites me above all else is the actual SQL trigger in preview, so that you could use triggers to shoot off functions. So that is a feature in preview, and is available, as it says there, with .NET, Java, Python, and PowerShell. Those are Python and PowerShell, as you can imagine, those ones that I get extra excited about. But there's some great GitHub examples there on using Azure Functions with SQL bindings, JavaScript, C#. So definitely, encourage everybody to take a look at this. As the group on the panel here knows, I like to dip not just in data, but how it touches other parts. So the functions piece, they've heard me talk about this while this was in preview ad nauseum, literally to the point I think they got nauseous a couple of times. So yeah, I just wanted to put this out there because it's a great announcement.
Well, and one of the things I want to just draw to in this, right? The reason those triggers are so important is when you look at a lot of topologies that we have, you have to build an event-based mechanism and application structure right now to be able to have data entered into a database and then trigger a result as a result of that. No longer, right? This makes it to where when we have data entered in a particular way, if you want to fire off a logic app, if you want to fire off, a set of code, if you want to file off something that does, a Python analysis, an ETL, reflects a model against something like that, you have these capabilities now to have that event-based architecture within Azure SQL database utilizing these bindings. And so from an architectural perspective, it takes some of the work out of being able to make that functionality possible. And it's interesting because it also takes some app dev functionality, puts us in the data realm, which we don't typically have, which starts to make worlds cross over into one another. But again, it smooths out application kind of architecture. If you think about it, it's as big as like when we use serverless pools to be able to go directly against Delta to pull data in when we load it to a data lake, instead of having a step where we ingest it and then we can query it, which is part of the tenets of Fabric, right? We load it and we've got all these different endpoints where we can point and we can look at it. That smooths out that architecture. Well, this is doing that, but it's doing it on the application side instead of doing it over on the analytics side. So that's very important stuff to realize. Great stuff, Josh.
Yeah, and what you were just talking about, Brad, with kind of blending worlds together. It's some of the I kind of grin while you were saying it, because even 7-8 years ago, in conversations with people, they're like, yeah, no, that's they're going to have apps, we're going to have data, there's not going to be any crossing over. And I'm like, you're crazy to think there isn't. So I chuckle like that, because I remember those conversations, and I was advocating for stuff that people were like, yeah, it'll never happen.
I got to tell you, everything we're getting right now with
and I'll leave it there.
Yeah, with the data API layer, I feel like it fits into conversations we had where people would say that's never going to happen.
Yeah, no, and honestly, that's one of the things that drew me to that as well, which we can talk about at the end of the show.
Absolutely. Okay. So next up, we have Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri, meaningful things to do for Father's Day. And apparently fishing and putting your arm around an old stranger does that. or maybe that's his dad. I don't know.
So, just for people who do not have plans, and Josh, something that maybe you can try it out from here, is things, good recommendations given out what you can do for your Father's Day. Couple of things were pretty nicely done. I was just sending it to my kids. Just if you want to try something out, this is something you can try it out for Father's Day. One thing maybe we should do it is go to number 10, which is put on a show. So maybe we can challenge each other up by saying what you do this weekend, and then we come up with some great ideas for next Tuesday.
You know what? I got to tell you, and maybe this is a next year thing, but my family has been asking me. They were like, "We want to do a show where we're in there with you, and we just get to talk about you, and kind of say, here's all the things that Dad does." They do impressions of me. You guys would die laughing. It's hysterical.
They do realize that a show without you would get no ratings.
Or the best ratings ever. No, but where they would be in there. But
I'm worried more about the original. But okay, yeah, go ahead.
Continue. Well, I was gonna say they were thinking it would more be them with me so that they could talk about here's who our dad is, and all I could think of was that would be a really neat thing for us to get recorded for everybody's family. Maybe put that together as a little behind the scenes, getting to know us kind of thing. And that might be funny. That might be cute.
Behind the field, but that wouldn't work. Okay.
The field, the field behind the field.
Tales from behind the field. No.
We can have Mr. Ball versus his family.
I was gonna say they're a funny crew. Josh knows they're not gonna be nice to me. They're gonna
no. I was completely kidding. It's going to be fun. They will ridicule him. I will capitalize on opportunities. It'll be grand. But ball in his pins. Bowling reference. Sorry, never mind. Continue. I'm trying to name it. I'm just failing.
That's okay. We'll work on the name. We're gonna workshop this and we'll get back to you. All right. So next up, it's me. I've got Get Skilled on Microsoft Fabric, the AI-powered analytics platform, by Shannon Lindsay. We have featured Shannon's content on here before. She is one half of the Data Witch, and it is wonderful to have her on the blog. This is on the Microsoft Fabric blog, and what I love is Shannon took and she put together who is Fabric for, and then how do I get skilled? And she put together all these wonderful module links based off what it is that you want to do. And she put your learning objectives describing end-to-end analytics for Microsoft Fabric, or looking at lake houses using Spark, working with Delta Lake tables, using data factory pipelines, ingesting data, all kinds of great stuff. And so if you're looking for learning resources to go, where is a great place where it is organized, and then I can figure out what do I want to learn with Fabric and go through it, check out this blog, which again, Shannon put together, and it's over on the Microsoft Fabric blog. Great stuff. Thank you for doing that, Shannon. Next up, I have Mr. Daniel Taylor. And Dan, you have Postgres tutorial for beginners.
So when I don't work with Postgres, I use my links with Postgres. I don't know, beer commercial. No, so I look, we occasionally get requests to work with Postgres, right? And we got beginners to advanced. And when you don't work with something on a regular basis, you forget things, right? So I like to have cheat sheets. This here actually supplanted one of my cheat sheets all in one blog post almost. So it had everything that I had in my cheat sheet that I should have probably blogged about, but it was all done here in one blog post. I really like it because it talks about creating tables, the views, and then the different ways you can use the PG admin tool and that. So it's a lengthy blog post, but it's a great place to come for a centralized knowledge transfer type scenario. So I really like this. So I added this to the links of things I like to refer to when I'm going back and utilizing Postgres. And now with Postgres SQL, serverless, I'm hoping that we see the more adoption rate from the static server. So yeah,
it's very nice. Excellent. And last but certainly not least, back to that glue again, the heart. It's Mr. Josh Ludeman.
I don't like the glue part of it.
Now you're just making me sound sticky.
That's what I got.
Well, I mean, were you working out earlier? You could be. I don't know.
So this was just another one. I wanted to come back to. Kevin Chant had another great blog article, this time on creating your own Fabric environment. This one I really wanted to hit on because it hits it from end to end, including enabling Fabric in your tenant, going through that, enabling the trial, going through, even talks about Fabric Git integration, what's available there. So yeah, no, there's a lot of good stuff in here.
Oh, I love that Git integration. As a matter of fact, one of the things when we were talking about different blog posts that we were looking for from folks, that was one that I was looking at, that I was like, oh, Josh got that one. That's
if you're
fantastic.
Not first, you're last.
I know it. All right. So we're down to the wrap up. Oh, sorry.
Real quick, Bradley. I forgot to mention on the Postgres tutorial for beginners, Daniel Cabamonte is the one who produced that. And I apologize, Daniel, you have such a great first name. I can't believe I forgot to mention it. So sorry about that, my friends.
I was going to say second or third best name I've ever heard of. Maybe fourth. We'll see. Sorry. So one thing I wanted to plug, I'm going to be doing a user group for the Austin SQL user group in July. I believe it's on July 13th. I will be doing a deeper dive into using OpenAI models to be able to get additional insights from your SQL data. That's going to be online for that user group. I will find a link for that. I know it's out there on Meetup, but we're going to start advertising that. I'll make sure and put that on LinkedIn as well. But if you're looking to join, because it is a remote presentation, you might be able to join even if you are not in the Austin area. Wish I could be down there. I do love Austin, but unfortunately that's going to have to be a remote presentation. And then start making your plans now, because we're going to Josh's favorite place in the world. And Josh, give it to me quickly. What is the place we are going?
The beautiful, luscious grounds of Lowe's Royal Pacific Resort on picturesque Universal Studios Orlando, which is what I was going to refer to earlier when I said I will be presenting on the data API features, REST API, and SQL bindings at Live 360, among many other sessions.
I love it. There's going to be a full day pre-con. It's not listed yet, but there will be a full day pre-con of us teaching you end-to-end solutions with Microsoft Fabric, It is going to be myself, Josh Ludeman, Neeraj Jhaveri, Buck Woody will be joining us there as well. It's going to be a full day, very interactive. We will be putting together a GitHub repo on this so people will be able to take that and reteach that in their environments. Wednesday, tomorrow, I've got a video for you, and it's on. You'll have to tune in. You'll have to tune in. It's going to be a surprise.
Come on.
Yeah, no tease. No tease this time around. Got to tune in tomorrow to be able to find out. This is a reminder. Next week we again have our roundtable. Well, if I'm fired, there's no Wednesday video, so I'll just sleep in. I guess that's what we're gonna do. So make sure if you are a creator in the community, hit us up. Put a comment on any of our roundtables. Hit us up on Twitter. We would love to hear from you, so that way we can feature your comment or your content on an upcoming show. That's about everything I've got. Anything else that we need to remember?
I just want to hear you say upcoming content 10 times faster than what you did, because I think even if we go to 2, that'll trip you up. You were so close to tripping, but you landed.
I was going to say upcoming content.
You landed the plane. Yeah, I was like, oh God, now I want him to say it just a little bit quicker.
A little bit faster, a little bit louder now. Hey, so remember, there is a great story inside of every one of you. Volunteer, speak, blog. There are opportunities in the data community, and that is the way that you get out there. I guess for Josh Ludeman, Daniel Taylor, Neeraj Jhaveri, thanks everybody. We will see you next week. Take care of one another.
Take care.
Bye.